a night out with friends, a rural house party, and then vanished without a trace. Alonzo Brooks was a quiet, good-natured 23-year-old who went to a party with a group of friends in rural Kansas one April night in 2004. But by the end of the night, all of his friends had left, and Alonzo had no way home. He was never seen alive again. A month later, his body was found under circumstances so suspicious that the FBI reopened the case and classified it as a potential hate crime. What really happened to Alonzo Brooks that night? And why, after all these years, does it seem like people are still hiding the truth? Hi, I'm Amanda, and this is Their Voice Matters, where we dig into true crime stories with compassion, clarity, and care. My goal is to amplify the voices of those who can no longer speak for themselves and explore the deeper questions their cases raise. Alonzo Brooks was born on May 19, 1980, to his parents Billy Brooks Sr. and Maria Ramirez. The youngest of 5 siblings, he had 3 sisters and a brother. Everyone called him Zoe. He was known for being polite, kind-hearted, and a bit of a prankster. His family remembers him as someone who loved football, animals, and spending time with his nieces and nephews. He would often babysit them, and they loved his playful nature. Despite his lighthearted personality, Alonzo was a homebody. His sister Demetria Leslie described him as shy, saying, quote, "He has to warm up to you. He didn't like being around a big crowd of people. But even though he wasn't particularly social, he still got along with everyone." His mother, Maria, still feels his presence today. She said, quote, "He used to get behind me and mess up my hair right after I had it fixed. I used to get so mad at him, but now when I feel my hair being moved by the wind, I figure it's him doing it." Alonzo grew up in Topeka, Kansas, before later moving to Gardner, Kansas, where he lived with his mom. Gardner was a small town of about 13,000 people at the time, located 35 minutes southwest of Kansas City. He was working as a custodian and had a love of sports, especially football and basketball. Just before the party, he had actually injured his ankle while playing sports and was still walking with a slight limp. If Alonzo's story resonates with you, please consider liking, subscribing, or following on podcast platforms. Your support helps bring attention to important cases like this, ensuring their stories aren't forgotten. On April 3rd, 2004, 23-year-old Alonzo got a call about a last-minute house party near Lacine, Kansas, a tiny rural town about 50 miles south of Gardner. With a population of around 1,000 people, Lacine was the type of place that had one gas station and not much else. The party was at a farmhouse and was being thrown for someone who was about to leave for the military. It wasn't some big, well-planned event, just a casual gathering that came together at the last minute. Alonzo wasn't a big partier, but he was excited to go that night. He left with a group of friends, including Justin, Daniel, Tyler, and a few others from Gardner. Justin picked up Alonzo from his house and then drove him there, while the others followed in separate cars. When they arrived, it was what you would expect from a country house party: music, drinking games, dancing, and a crowd of about 100 people, mostly between 16 and 21 years old. But one thing stood out. Alonzo was one of only about 3 black men at the party. Lacine was a predominantly white town, and some locals weren't exactly welcoming. Justin later recalled, quote, "There were some people at the party that had problems with people's skin color. Despite this, Alonzo was in high spirits. His friends were even surprised to see him so outgoing, laughing and having fun. Still, there was an unspoken divide in the crowd. One of Alonzo's friends later described it as a tight-knit country clique, with the group from Gardner feeling somewhat like they were outsiders. As the night went on, things started to shift. Reports suggest that fights broke out, though some say it was no more than just some heated arguments. What's more concerning is that there were allegedly racist comments made about and directly to Alonzo. At one point, tensions escalated, and Alonzo was seen arguing with another man. Witnesses say they had to be separated, but after that, Alonzo seemed to shake it off, continuing to joke around and enjoy himself. Then, the party started breaking up. By around 11 p.m., some of Alonzo's friends decided to leave to go to another party. Since they came in separate cars, people assumed that someone else would make sure Alonzo got home. One friend left, thinking that Justin would drive Alonzo back home since they arrived together. Justin, meanwhile, stepped outside for a cigarette, but he realized he was out. He went to ask Alonzo for one, only to find out that Alonzo was out too. So, Justin made the decision to make a quick trip to go buy some more. Alonzo asked him to grab him a pack as well. Justin got in his car and drove off, but instead of turning left to go back to town, he said he accidentally turned right. He said he didn't realize his mistake until he'd been driving for about 30 minutes. And then his car got stuck. Rather than try to make it back to the party, Justin decided to just head home since he was already halfway there. Justin said that he called another friend, Adam, to have him let Alonzo know what happened and for Adam to give Alonzo a ride home. Adam agreed. That was the last time anyone from Alonzo's friend group saw him alive. On the morning of Sunday, April 4th, 2004, Maria, Alonzo's mother, got a phone call. It was one of Alonzo's friends asking if he came home. Maria assumed that Alonzo was just sleeping in, but when she checked his room, his bed was still made from the day before. He wasn't in his room. He wasn't anywhere in the house. He had never made it back home. That was completely out of character for him. Alonzo wasn't the type to crash at a friend's place without telling anyone. He always came home. Maria immediately started calling family members, hoping someone had heard from him, but no one had. Something was very wrong. Panic set in as they called around to Alonzo's friends, trying to piece together what happened the night before. Justin, the friend who was supposed to drive him home, said that he had called Adam and asked him to make sure that Alonzo got a ride. But now Adam was saying that when he was ready to leave, Alonzo was nowhere to be found. He couldn't find Alonzo, so he assumed that he had already gone with someone else, and Adam left the party. But that wasn't the case. Alonzo was still at the party. It's unknown how they missed each other. For reasons that still aren't entirely clear or understandable, every single one of Alonzo's friends ended up leaving him behind. That meant that Alonzo was stranded, alone, about an hour away from home, and in a town where some people had already made it very clear that he wasn't welcome. That same day, April 4th, Rodney English, Alonzo's childhood best friend, got a call from Maria. The second he heard that Alonzo had not come home, he knew something was seriously wrong. Rodney lived in Topeka, but he immediately jumped in his car and drove to Gardner to help find his best friend. He picked up Justin, someone he had never met before, and together they drove to the farmhouse where the party had been held. When they arrived, they started searching the area. They checked the wood line, the field, anywhere Alonzo may have gone. Then, Rodney spotted something. On the other side of the road, from the farmhouse's long driveway, one of Alonzo's boots was lying in the grass, along with his beanie, the one he always wore. A short distance away, the other boot was found. The items weren't hidden, buried, or caught in branches. They were just sitting there out in the open, as if someone had carelessly tossed them out of a car. While Rodney and Justin searched, a man on an ATV pulled up to them. He didn't ask if they needed help. He didn't seem concerned at all. Instead, he told them they needed to leave. Rodney later said, quote, "At that point, we knew something was up. Something's not right. He's missing. Something's totally wrong. Something happened to my brother." Alonzo's family immediately contacted the Lynn County Sheriff's Office to report him missing. But instead of taking action, the police told them that they had to wait 48 hours to report Alonzo missing since he was an adult. It was a frustrating and likely false claim. There's no actual law requiring families to wait 48 hours to report an adult missing, but it's often something police will say when they assume the person just took off on their own. Alonzo hadn't. And every second wasted meant that the search for him was starting far too late. I want to take a minute to talk about this because it's one of the most common misconceptions about missing persons cases, that you have to wait 48 hours to report an adult missing. This is completely false. There is no law requiring you to wait before filing a missing persons report. So why do people believe this? Well, a lot of it comes from pop culture. Movie and TV shows often portray police officers saying, "We can't do anything until they've been missing for 48 hours." When in reality, this isn't true in most places. You can report an adult missing immediately, especially if their disappearance is unusual or suspicious. That said, some police departments do discourage immediate reports, but not because they legally have to. Many adults who go missing turn up within a day or two, so officers might initially assume that the person left on their own or will turn up soon. They also tend to prioritize cases involving children, the elderly, or people with medical conditions. But that doesn't mean that you should wait. The sooner you file a report, the better the chances are of finding them. If law enforcement refuses to take a report, families can push back by asking for a supervisor, providing proof that the disappearance is out of character, or contacting advocacy groups that specialize in missing persons cases. The bottom line is, if someone you love is missing, report it immediately. There is no magic waiting period. Every single second counts. By Monday, April 5th, Alonzo was missing for a second day, and his family were desperate for answers. Alonzo's brother Billy and sister-in-law Cindy drove down to Lacine looking for any sign of him. Their first stop was the farmhouse where the party had been held. They got a hold of the owner to learn that the house was a rental and no one lived there full-time. But as they peered through the windows, something felt off. Inside, the house was completely empty. There were no signs of a party. No beer cans, no trash, no scattered furniture. It was as if nothing had happened in there at all. As they drove around town, hoping to find clues about Alonzo's whereabouts, an unsettling feeling crept in. They felt unwelcome, watched, like outsiders in a place that didn't want them there. Hoping to push the investigation forward, they went to the Lynn County Sheriff's Office and spoke directly with the sheriff. They told him this was not normal behavior for Alonzo. He wasn't someone who just disappeared. They reminded him that his boots had been found abandoned on the side of the road, and it had rained heavily the night of the party. They asked, who would be wandering around a rural area with no shoes on? But the sheriff didn't seem concerned. He insisted that Alonzo had probably gone off somewhere and would turn up soon. His family left the station feeling frustrated, but still hoping that law enforcement would finally take action. They had no idea their search for answers was only beginning. Lynn County Sheriff Paul Filla, who was a deputy at the time, said he first received word about Alonzo's disappearance on April 4th. He said that same day he went to the farmhouse and searched the property, including the nearby creek, but found no sign of Alonzo. According to Justin, law enforcement initially believed that Alonzo had gotten drunk, removed his shoes, and attempted to walk home, a 50-mile journey, barefoot, with an injured ankle. Despite how improbable that theory was, crucial time passed before the case escalated. By April 7th, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, or KBI, took over and launched a full-scale search. They combed the area on foot with scent dogs and from the air with helicopters, but came up empty. 3 days later, on April 10th, the FBI was brought in to assist. Then, on April 12th, a rescue and dive team searched the creek. At the time, the creek's deepest sections were only about 3 feet deep. Searchers walked along the banks, scanned the water, and conducted an exhaustive sweep. Yet they found no trace of Alonzo. The dive team offered to come back for a second search, but law enforcement never followed up. Authorities interviewed partygoers, but their questioning led nowhere. According to FBI agent Jim McAllister, those interviews, quote, yielded no confession and shed no light on where Alonzo might be. However, their interest in gathering information seemed selective. They questioned Alonzo's friends, but not Rodney, the first person to find Alonzo's hat and boots on the side of the road. Rodney later said, quote, "I was the first one on the scene. I'm the one who found the hats and boots. That's how bad they wanted to figure this out. They didn't ask me anything about it." From the beginning, rumors swirled about what really happened that night. Some claimed Alonzo had been targeted for violence because of his race. Others suggested that he had flirted with the wrong girl, a white girl, angering a group of partygoers. There were whispers that drunk white men had singled him out, looking for a fight. But despite these disturbing allegations, authorities failed to make any arrests. While Alonzo's family did everything they could to help with the investigation, they faced resistance at every turn. Alonzo's sister Demetria said, quote, "They made us leave the town. They kept telling us to get out. Whenever they tried to post missing persons flyers, some locals ripped them down almost immediately. Some people spoke with them, but many ignored them, turning their noses up as if they were unwelcome." The family also repeatedly called the sheriff's department, looking for updates. But after weeks of persistence, they were told to stop calling. Law enforcement would contact them when they had information. But that call never came. After 27 agonizing days, Alonzo's family was finally allowed to search the area themselves again. On May 1st, 2004, they organized a search party of family and friends, determined to find some clue about what happened to Alonzo. They didn't have to search for long. In less than an hour, Alonzo's body was found. Alonzo's father, Billy Brooks Sr., said, quote, "My God, it was awful to find my boy like that. Nothing can describe that pain." He also recalled that when they began searching, the sky was overcast. But as soon as they found Alonzo, quote, "the sun came out." To him, it felt like a sign, as if his son was telling him everything was okay now. Alonzo's body was found in the creek near the farmhouse. He was laying on branches and brush, partially tangled in debris. From the moment they saw him, they knew something wasn't right. Alonzo's Aunt Angela said, quote, "When the family found him and saw what he looked like, we knew there was foul play. We could tell." This leads to a very troubling question. Why wasn't Alonzo found sooner? Investigators claimed that heavy rainfall the night after the party had caused the creek to flood, submerging Alonzo's body under brush and debris. They suggested that as the water levels receded, his body surfaced, which is why he wasn't discovered earlier. However, Alonzo's family strongly disagreed. They believed investigators simply hadn't searched thoroughly enough, because if they had, he would have been found. And they weren't the only ones who were skeptical. Cadaver dogs are trained to detect bodies in water, even if they're in much deeper water than this shallow creek. Yet, in their initial search, they found nothing. FBI Special Agent Lena Romana defended the official explanation, saying, quote, "It's possible that with all the rainfall that occurred, that creek rose and fell on a couple different occasions, which would allow for anything that was trapped under the really large brush piles to become dislodged and rise to the surface." But even with that explanation, many people have still questioned why his body wasn't found earlier, which we'll discuss in more detail later. There is also disagreement about the condition of Alonzo's body. According to the FBI, his body showed significant decomposition, consistent with being exposed to the elements for 27 days. But his family says otherwise. They insist that his body didn't appear as decomposed as they would have expected if he were laying in water for nearly a month. Lynn County Coroner Dr. Mitchell conducted Alonzo's autopsy. He noted that Alonzo's clothes, jewelry, and wallet containing cash were still on him. He found no sharp force injuries, no broken bones, no gunshot wounds, no sign of drowning, and no obvious signs of a beating. But strangulation couldn't be ruled out because animal activity had damaged the soft tissue in his neck. Both the cause and manner of death were ruled undetermined. From the start, Alonzo's family felt shut out by investigators. His Aunt Angela said, quote, "We got nowhere with the local authorities. They didn't even want to talk to us. And then when family members would call them, they told us we were calling too much. Law enforcement ultimately closed the case, stating that nothing they learned suggested that Alonzo was the victim of a crime. But to his family, friends, and many others, that explanation made no sense. In 2019, the U.S. Attorney's Office and FBI reopened the investigation into Alonzo's death. Then, in July 2020, Alonzo's case was featured on the Netflix reboot of Unsolved Mysteries, bringing national attention back to the case and reigniting public interest. That same month, authorities exhumed Alonzo's body for a second autopsy. His remains were transported to Dover Air Force Base, where the Armed Forces Medical Examiner conducted a new forensic analysis. The findings were damning. The medical examiner determined that Alonzo's injuries were inconsistent with normal patterns of decomposition. As a result, his death was officially ruled a homicide, but the exact cause of death has not been publicly released. This raises serious questions about the original autopsy done in 2004. The first autopsy was conducted by Dr. Mitchell, a coroner whose past has been the subject of controversy. Before coming to Kansas, Dr. Mitchell worked in New York, where he was accused of overstepping his authority and mismanaging his office. Prosecutors claimed that he had allegedly removed organs from corpses without family consent, improperly stored skeletons and body parts in his office, agreed to resign in 1993 amid misconduct allegations. Even more concerning, a New York murder conviction was overturned after Dr. Mitchell changed the estimated time of death to support a prosecutor's theory, allegedly in exchange for leniency in his own misconduct allegations. Does this mean that Dr. Mitchell's findings in Alonzo's 2004 autopsy were incorrect? Not necessarily, but the second autopsy in 2020, which found evidence of a homicide, raises a critical question. Was the original examination thorough, or were critical details overlooked? The FBI has since determined that Alonzo's death was likely a hate crime. U.S. Attorney Stephen McAllister acknowledged that the original investigation lacked coordination, saying, quote, "There was a lot of activity, all kinds of interview reports, but no strong coordination. It just led to a kind of throwing up their hands when they didn't end up with an obvious suspect." But now, federal authorities were determined to uncover the truth. U.S. Attorney Dustin Slinkard said, quote, "We know that Alonzo Brooks died under very suspicious circumstances. This new examination by a team of the world's best forensic pathologists and experts established it was no accident. Alonzo Brooks was killed. We are doing everything we can and will spare no resources to bring those responsible to justice." The FBI reviewed all information from the 2004 investigation and re-interviewed witnesses who were at the party that night, along with new witnesses. They also took major steps to encourage tips. They announced a $100,000 reward for information leading to an arrest, prosecution, and conviction. They also put up several billboards in the Kansas City area, urging those with information to come forward. Although the reward remains unclaimed, authorities have reportedly received several new tips since the investigation was reopened. His death was certainly suspicious, and someone, likely multiple people, knows what happened that night in April 2004, said U.S. Attorney McAllister. It is past time for the truth to come out. The code of silence must be broken. Alonzo's family deserves to know the truth, and it is time for justice to be served. For Alonzo's mother, Maria, the reason behind his death is clear. Quote, "I'm Mexican and his father is Black, so he's mixed. They didn't just target one race or kill one race, they killed two. He was targeted because of the color of his skin." And as McAllister pointed out, quote, "It defies reason to believe that Alonzo's death was self-inflicted or that he somehow accidentally tumbled into a relatively shallow creek in Lynn County, leaving behind his boots and hat, all with no witnesses whatsoever." The leading theory surrounding Alonzo's death is that he was attacked and killed by a group of locals, likely after the party. Given Alonzo's strength and athleticism, many believe that it would have taken more than one person to overpower him. There's speculation that some locals, possibly even law enforcement, know who is responsible, but they are choosing to remain silent. One of the most persistent questions is, why wasn't his body found during the extensive searches? While some of Alonzo's family believe that law enforcement didn't search the area as thoroughly as they claimed to, it's still difficult to believe that his body could have gone unnoticed for nearly a month if it was in the creek the whole time. One searcher even admitted that if Alonzo's body had been in the creek, they would have found it. Also, some of the items found with his body seemed surprisingly well preserved for having supposedly been submerged in water for nearly a month. His bandana and papers in particular looked remarkably intact, raising questions about whether his body had been in the creek at all. Could it be that Alonzo's body wasn't in the creek the entire time? One theory suggests that since Alonzo's family noted that since his body didn't seem as decomposed as expected after being submerged in water for so long, it's possible that his body was kept frozen or refrigerated and then placed in the creek after initial searches. While frozen bodies would leave detectable signs, it's possible that if his body was simply refrigerated, which doesn't leave as many signs, decomposition slowdown might not be as apparent. Maria said, quote, "Someone knows what happened to my son. I think many people know. I hope now they will have the courage and kindness in their hearts to come forward. We missed out on his whole life." Maria continued, her voice filled with pain, quote, "Someone took that away from us, and someone or several people know what happened to him. We just want to know. He is my baby and I can't protect him anymore, but I can do this. I can find out what happened. I can get justice for him." Despite the renewed investigation, no arrests have been made. But Alonzo's case remains far from forgotten. His friends, family, and supporters continue to demand answers. And the FBI has made it clear. They will not stop until justice is served. If you have any information about the death of Alonzo Brooks, please come forward. There are people out there who know the truth, who can help hold those responsible for his death accountable. People who can provide the answers his family desperately needs and deserves. If you know something, please contact the FBI at 816-512-8200 or 816-474-TIPS, or submit a tip online at tips.fbi.gov. If you're moved by this story and would like to hear more cases told with care, please take a moment to like, subscribe, follow on podcast platforms, share this episode, and join the conversation in the comments. Your voice matters too, and it can truly make a difference. If you found Alonzo's case important, I highly recommend checking out my coverage of Noah Presgrove's case next. It's another tragic death, also following a party, shrouded in mystery and unanswered questions. You can find that video linked here. It's another story where your attention could help make a real difference. I'll see you there. Until next time, remember, their voice matters, and it's up to all of us to keep it alive.